Going live. Going live.
Oh no, I was making a face.
One.
I was making a face. Can we start that again?
I think we're live now. I think we're good.
Oh boy. All right. Well, yeah. Here we are.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Carlos Castellanos, founder of DrawnBySuccess.com and co-creator of the nationally syndicated comic strip Baldo. And I'm here with my pal Bob Ostrom.
Hey guys, how's everybody doing today? So Carlos, we have some things to discuss today.
Well, actually, you know, just so you guys know, we had actually something completely different planned to discuss today.
Yes, but
and we changed
life
it
took
last
over.
minute.
Yeah. Life has a way of doing that sometimes, and so
we were actually going to discuss pre-qualifying clients and the kind of questions you want to ask when you get a client call, and how you take them through that process of getting them to buy your service, whether it be a design, illustration, or whatever, and how to pre-qualify with some really deep questions that'll kind of throw up some red flags if they're the right client for you or not. But we decided to kind of nix that whole idea.
Well, we're not nixing it. We're just putting it off to the side.
We're going to push it off. We're going to put it on the back burner. We'll probably cover it next week.
Yeah. It's a good topic, and I think that people will be interested in it. But something happened today when you and I got on the phone to talk about our show, and that was that when I started talking to you, I said, I was up late last night. I don't feel that great today. I took a little nap today, and all of a sudden, 2 hours go by, and Carlos is like, yeah, I was up late last night too. I was up till like 4, and I was like, 4? What are you, crazy? And so then we started to talk a little bit about it, like why are we doing this kind of stuff? And a lot of artists run into this. A lot of us tend to be night owls, and we spend too many hours in front of the desk and stuff, and then we face what inevitably happens is burnout. It's a cycle. You get into this thing, you're sprinting as fast as you can for as long as you can, but unfortunately you can't sprint forever, and so it catches up with you, and so it caught up with us. So I've got a cold today to show for it. And Carlos, I don't know what to say about you, man. You were up till 4 a.m. That's crazy.
And well, why don't you tell us what happened with you? What was your downfall? Where did it start? What set that whole thing off?
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing,
Because I know ordinarily you're pretty organized.
I'm sorry. These my headphones are malfunctioning. Did you say? Did you say organized? Yeah. No. I try to do reasonable hours, but I've always been one of these guys who my best hours are, from 9 o'clock on, 9 p.m., not 9 a.m. And so I spend a lot of time working in the evenings because there's a lot of uninterrupted time that I can just really focus on what I need to do. But every once in a while, I fall into this pattern where I start to stay up too late. I get sidetracked easily. I'll start spending more time on things that aren't work than things that are work because I'm just feeling burned out, And I think that a lot of us go through this. There's only so many hours you can focus on something before you start to get tired, and your body says, "Hey, what's up here? We need a break, And you're working too hard, and you push and you push and you push because you've got those deadlines. But eventually, you are either going to get sick and break down, or you're going to need to take a little bit of time off." And so I think what's important, and you mentioned this, was it last week that you started to talk about this? Maybe the week before. You said, I'm taking a little time away from this. I need to get away and feel better, and now I don't want to go back, So all of a sudden, here come the deadlines again. Hey, Carlos, you got to start working, and your body's like, man, I need some time off. Well, I was going through the same thing, So I was just relaxing and spending a little bit too much time reading up on, some of these things that I want to do and trying to learn new programs and all that kind of stuff. And I just said, oh man, I don't really want to go to work. And so finally, I forced myself to my desk. It was a ridiculous hour, and I did what work I had to do. But there was, had I focused a little bit more on, getting some time off ahead of time, then I wouldn't have been in that procrastination mode where my body was saying, I don't want to work, but you're making me work. Okay, so one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to crash and burn, or you're going to get sick. So here I am, So sometimes we're kind of forced to take time off,
So you're sick now.
I've got a cold, yes. Good times.
Way to go, Bob.
Yeah, I know. But this is one of those things. We talk about all the things that we need to do as an artist, and sometimes we forget that one of the things that we need to schedule is time off. Time off for good behavior, right? So, and I know that the nature of the business means that you've got to make a living, so you take the jobs that come in, you get them done or whatever. But it is important to schedule time off. And one of the things I think you and I were talking about earlier was that sometimes we fail to recognize the situation as it's happening. So you were saying how you were tired. You didn't want to do this stuff. You didn't want to get back to it. What's wrong with me? I'm supposed to be this organized guy, But I think that message was coming from your body, and it was saying, "Hey, Carlos, let's take a break." And so those are the things I think that we tend to overlook a lot, because we're so driven, and we work these very, very long hours. There's only so many hours you can sit in a chair before your body just says, "Okay, enough." So today I wanted to talk a little bit about some of recognizing that, and then also some of the things that we can do to kind of fight against it. I shouldn't say fight against it. Maybe a better word would be to accept it, right? So what are some symptoms? Let's talk about that first.
With me, it started about two and a half weeks ago, and I posted it on Twitter not too long ago, and I had a couple of people respond back because I was really like, I think I wrote something to the effect of, God, has anybody else totally just thrown time management completely out the window? Because I'm late on everything. I'm behind schedule on everything. I'm not getting anything done. It feels like I'm always rushing just to barely catch up. So I was really in a frantic space for a while. And what happened was that typically, just so that you get an idea, typically I try to be very organized in, not that I'm overly organized, but with my time, what I do is I time block. So I time block in the morning. I have 20, 30 minutes that I'll set aside for reading different books. And I could be reading, I'm not the kind of person that reads one book all the way through. I usually have 3, 4, 5 different books that I'm reading at the same time, and I'm kind of jumping in between them because I'm looking for specific information. So I usually set aside a certain amount of time for reading or doing something in the morning, to better myself or educate myself. And then Can
I just jump in real quick here? And I just want to say one thing. You are probably one of the most organized artists I've ever met. So when you're telling me that you're having trouble managing your time, I know something's up.
Well, it's just a lot of things that I got going on. So I have to be able, if I don't time block, my day, and say, okay, from this time, from 10 to 11 or 10 to 12, I'm working on this, and then from X time to the X time, I'm working on something else. Things will slip through my fingers, and I will forget them because I don't have the greatest memory. And so I need to write stuff down, and I need to time block those things. It's not enough for me to just do a to-do list without time blocking a certain amount of time for each thing that needs to happen. Otherwise, I lose it all. So typically, that's what my day looks like. I'm very organized with my time blocks, and I can get a lot done that way. It's very effective for me. But what happened 2.5 weeks ago is that somewhere along the line, I said, "Screw this time blocking stuff." For some reason, I just didn't want to do it. I just, I woke up one morning. I said, I don't want to put the effort into time blocking anything. I just want to do what I need to do. So I figured I could just go through my day without time blocking anything, and 2 days later, I forgot to do something, because it wasn't time blocked. And then 3 days later, now I've got 2 or 3 things that I'm behind on. And a week later, now there's projects that I didn't do or things I didn't catch up on or projects that I was supposed to send stuff on, and now I got to spend all night trying to catch up on it. Yeah. So it just started spiraling out of control. Really, it just started from just a lazy place. I was just like, man, I just don't feel like doing it today,
Yeah. Well, I talked to you at that time.
Yeah, and it went from one day, not wanting to do it one day, and then it spread out to a whole week. And then I started falling behind on a lot of different fronts, and that's when I went to Twitter, and I just had to vent because it was like, oh my God, what the hell am I doing? And how am I going to get control over this?
I'm powerless to stop this.
I felt like it was on an out of control train, So, so here I am. I had to pull an all-nighter last night because I'm just late on everything. I mean, I've just fallen behind so much on stuff.
Right.
So I ended up working till 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:15. To this morning, I had a school presentation at my son's school that I had to be there at 7:34. So I didn't sleep much. Went there. Then I got a call from Mark Simon just a couple of days ago saying that he was in town and he wanted to meet for lunch after his event down here in the Breakers in Palm Beach. And I said, sure, okay. So I figured, well, I'd just go straight from the school to go meet him for lunch or something, and then maybe squeeze one of these interviews in between. So it's just like everything got really squeezed and condensed, and I feel like a zombie right now. I mean, I feel like if I fall asleep right now during this, please forgive me.
I'll just jump in and snore louder than you.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I think I just got to a point where, sometimes you just have to unplug. And getting back to what you were talking about when we were talking about that last week, is that sometimes we just have to unplug and step back away from the rigidity of, the time management and all these things that you need to do to maintain the workflow and maintain your level of success, because there are things that successful people do that unsuccessful people don't do. I mean, so you study that, and then you do what successful people do, and hopefully you'll experience some of that success, right? So, but it takes work and it takes dedication, and sometimes you just don't feel like doing it,
Right.
So sometimes you just need to step back and unplug from that. But what happened was I unplugged from it from planned on doing it for one day. It turned into like what is now 2.5 weeks. I'm exhausted. I am no closer. I probably have to work this weekend just to catch up on all the stuff that I've fallen behind on. So, and now I know I have to get back to time blocking, but I'm so far behind on stuff. I don't have time to time block.
I've got a suggestion for you. And I know that I've been in the same spot that you are, and I'm close to that same spot right now. But at a certain point, you need to start to just delegate. So take some of the stuff, and you've already started to do this. So that's cool. But take some of the stuff off of your plate and start to find other people who can help you get that done, until you can get your head in a place where you feel like you've rested, that kind of thing. I think when we drive ourselves too hard, eventually it ends up catching up with us, and so you start to think like the last thing I want to do is go sit in front of that computer for another 8 hours. I've got all these things that I need to do. So at this point, start looking around for people who can help you, and I guarantee you there's plenty of them. And start to think if there's a way that you can unload some of that burden and get rid of the stuff that is causing you the most stress, if possible, and then that'll allow you to start to focus on some of the other stuff. You're going through what everybody goes through, and that is that you get to a certain level where it's just too much to deal with, so you say, I'm not going to deal with it. And you can only get away with that for a certain amount of time. So when we talked, was it 2 weeks ago, I think you were still in the honeymoon phase of it, where you were like, I just unplugged, and this is the greatest thing ever. Woohoo!
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when you step away, even like I've done it before with social media. I've done it before with even my email and my calls, where I've called everybody and said, don't email me for a week because you're not going to get a response. Don't call me this week because I'm not going to answer anything. And it's not that I'm on vacation. I'm just working on my stuff, and I just don't want to be bothered.
Right.
And I just need to be unplugged from that. And I've done it with a couple of things in the past. The problem is, with what I experienced, and this isn't the first time I've gone through this, but what the problem is that, like you said, it feels really good not to have to worry about all those other things when you unplug. It feels it's almost like a relief, But then if you're a person that's got a lot of things going on, and things are going to start falling through the cracks, then it becomes even more stressful than it was prior to you unplugging. So, it's the kind of thing that you might want to try to plan for and say, you know what, I'm getting close to this burnout feeling. Maybe I'm going to unplug, but do it in a way that you're spacing yourself out. And like you said, maybe you bring somebody in to help you with some projects so that it allows you the time to actually really relax. Right. Now, the problem with that too that I found is that when I unplug and relax, it feels so good there that getting back in, and start scheduling stuff gets more difficult, because I know the work that it takes to look at your weeks, your projects several weeks out, a month out, and figure out what needs to get done. It's time consuming, and it does take energy to plan out your projects and different things that you need to do, and when you're going to be available for everything that you're going to be available for.
Right. And so I think one of the keys, and you mentioned it here, was to recognize that you don't want to wait until it becomes a blow-off situation. So if you think about it like you're a pressure cooker, you can only take so much pressure before you got to let off some steam. Now, if you were letting off steam gradually all along, you wouldn't have reached that pressure cooker situation, So I think maybe, like you said, planning this stuff, taking a day or two here and there to spend with your family or to do something that you like to do, and just saying, hey, you know what? I'm not working next Friday. Everybody, I'll be away or whatever, and then so that way, rather than waiting until the situation becomes, a breakdown, it's something that you can start to manage ahead of time, So.
And kind of maybe schedule it strategically. Like I decided to to step away from my blocking strategy, my time blocking strategy, at a time where I really couldn't afford to do that because I had a lot of things going on. and looking back on it, had I stopped to realize that probably wasn't the best time to take a break from that, but it probably was why I needed it, because I had so many things lined up and going on that I figured and I needed to step back. But it probably wasn't the best time to do it, because evidently a bunch of stuff fell through, and it just wasn't a good time to just fly by the seat of my pants.
Well, let me ask you this: have you been scheduling time for yourself? I mean, what do you do to guard against spending every single minute of every single day focused on your work?
Well, no, I mean, I spend, don't get me wrong, I spend a lot of time with myself and doing things with my family and doing other things that outside of the business that I need. It was just I didn't feel, there was a lot of projects that I had to plan out, and I just got tired of time blocking everything. I just got tired of having to think about the organization of it all, what I mean? So I just figured, I know more or less what I need to do today, and I'll just do it. But what happened was that because I didn't have the time blocks, and I usually, when I do the time blocks, I usually have either one of those egg timers, or something on the phone, but usually the egg timer in front of me so that it's ticking away, and I know exactly, I'm more conscious of the time. Without that, I ended up spending more time on things than I would have without the timer, and without that acknowledgement, and things just kind of something, instead of taking an hour and a half, to 2.5 hours, which bumps up the next project, and then I got to go to school, pick up my son, and then one project that I had to do before I picked him up didn't get done, so now it gets bumped up, and it's just snowballs from there. So it wasn't really that I wasn't allowing a lot of personal time. It's just that I got tired of planning everything, my work schedule, and I just wanted to just fly by the seat of my pants for a little bit and just kind of let it go. But I let it go too far, and then didn't feel like coming back.
Yeah, well, the egg timer thing sounds pretty regimented. It sounds like maybe you need to give yourself a little bit of a break there. That's
no, so, I found that it works well for me. Much like I've spoken to a lot of clients about time management and getting, when we're coaching with people,
sure,
having people that aren't able to do things, and they feel they don't have the time. But a lot of it's just being conscious of the time that they're working on certain projects, and sometimes they end up spending more time on projects than they need to. The old adage that says, if you have something that needs to get done, give it to a busy person.
Yeah, right.
When you've got more time on your hands, things tend to take longer to do, and you just use up that extra time. Where if you have less time, you'll find that you'll get things done in that lesser time. So deadlines are great. You know, you and I live and die by deadlines, and probably most of our audience. So I kind of need that to keep me on task, so I don't waste too much time doing things.
Sure.
The reason why sometimes my own personal projects take longer than they should is because I don't have that outside influence of deadlines and someone imposing a time frame on me. So so the deadlines and the rigidity of the time clock with the blocking of the time works great for me. I don't have a problem with it. But it did just get to a point where I just felt lazy and I didn't want to do it, you know, and I just kind of spiraled out of control. So now it's just a matter of getting back into it, and I'm ready, man, because I can't handle this anymore. I'm going to do it right after I block out some time for sleep.
Yeah, sounds like you're at the end of your cycle then, so you're getting ready to jump back on the wagon. That's, you know, there's another important thing there that maybe we should talk a little bit about, which is, you know, if you find yourself going through this, try not to beat yourself up over it, you know, because that just makes matters worse. So just recognize that this is a natural cycle, and you know, and ride it out, and then when you're done with it, you're done with it, you know, and you'll get back in there. I mean, you've been in business long enough to know that. I think talking about this stuff is good, though, and recognizing that everybody kind of goes through this once in a while.
Yeah, because I'm sure there's people out there that maybe have done it and like you said, beat themselves up over it.
Yeah.
And there's really no need to. I mean, it's just a cycle that we all go through. You know, we have our ups and downs, and sometimes we're just more tired than others. And you just need to be aware of it and recognize it, and you know, at the same time, give yourself, like in my case, give myself the space, but also be careful not to get, you know, go from giving yourself space to just becoming totally lazy and throwing everything out the window, which is basically what I've done for the last week. I mean, I just like threw my hands up and said, screw this, you know.
You woke up with a tattoo on your neck and a tiger in the room.
So Bob, what do you do to keep yourself on task? Let's talk about, I mean, we've talked about a little bit about, you know, getting out of control and letting things go and the effect that it can have on you. What do you do, you know, when you are in that frame of mind of managing your time or trying to manage your time and your schedule? What are some of the things that work for you?
All right. Well, there's two things that I've done recently that I would really strongly recommend, and I've talked about one of them before on the show, which is I've started to take Friday and make that a non-art day. And I think we talked about this a couple episodes ago. Tara Reid suggested that to me at one point, and I was like, no art Fridays? You're insane. How could you do that? But it turns out that that's one of the greatest moves I've ever made, because it gives you time to look at what you're doing, and like when you schedule your time, you tend to block out time. I'm not quite as rigid as that. When I look at my schedule, I look at that and I say, okay, here's what I've got coming up. How much stuff can I fit in here? What do I need to have done for next week? Here I'm going to start to plan out some of the things I'm going to do on my website, some of the personal stuff, the non-paying stuff that will eventually pay off later. I take Friday for that, you know. And then the other thing that I've done more recently is started to block out time for exercise. I went through about a year and a half where I was just sort of sporadically doing whatever I was going to do when I could do it. Maybe I'll go running today, or maybe I'll do this or whatever. And so I've started to block out specific time for that. So now I take at least an hour, sometimes 2 hours a day, to either go to the gym or to run or both, to make sure that and I'm that kind of person, like if I don't get that exercise in, it starts to eat me from the inside out, you know. So I feel like, you know, being able to go to the gym, and I take my sons with me, and we have a great time, you know. So those are two things I think that are really important for me. Different people are built different ways, you know. I feel like if I don't get my exercise, then I start to climb the walls after a couple days. So that helps. And then having some time to just think, you know. So like when I go out for a run, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take my iPod with me, and I'll listen to different podcasts about things that seem to be troubling me at the time. So it's either going to be a business podcast, or maybe it'll be, you know, sort of a life situation podcast where they'll talk about, you know, how do you deal with stress or that kind of thing. So I'll take that with me, and that gives me that time, you know, the 45 minutes or so, to just focus on that, you know, and to listen to it and to hear it, you know, because if I'm sitting at my desk and I'm working, I don't always hear these things. They just kind of go in one ear and go out the other ear. So it gives me a little bit of time to decompress, you know, and I usually schedule that either mid-morning or early afternoon. And then that way I know, like, if I don't wait till the end of the day, I don't feel like, oh my gosh, I got to get out there and do this because, I'm going to be teaching, this evening. And, if I feel like I'm relaxed and I can just ease into it, then it feels great. And then that is one of those things. Exercise is a kind of thing that always, even though, you think ahead of time, oh, this is the last thing I feel like doing. Once you're done with it, your whole mindset changes. It changes your mood. It changes your focus, and it puts for me, anyways. It puts me in a good headspace. So if I miss that, then I start to break down a little bit. So those are the two things that I really use to help me manage, stress levels and to feel like I'm in a little bit more control over my day rather than just sort of reacting to what comes in.
Right.
Yeah. So what about you, Carlos?
No, you know what? The time blocking for my work schedule works out really well, and obviously, to schedule things with the kids, because I'm usually like either coaching or going to all their practices and their games and what have you. So, I've got to keep a lot of things in line there. The running thing is a good idea. Is a good point, and the exercising. For me, running, I don't like listening to anything when I'm running.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to hear your own thoughts.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's about the only time that I get the chance to actually just be alone with my own thoughts is when I'm running. Because usually when I'm in the office, I make time to study and listen to certain things and basically put myself through school.
Right.
Listening to things about marketing or artwork or whatever it is. And that's the time that I take to kind of feed my mind. When I'm running, it's really like the only time that I have that that is just, it's just me, man. I like tuning into my heartbeat, my breathing rhythm, and just, it's just me. It's just all internal. I try to shut everything out, and we're all different that way. I mean, you find what works for you and the things and those places that allow you to feel that relief, And I think part of that, now that you mentioned that, I tore my meniscus in my right knee about a year ago, so I haven't been able to run a whole lot without serious pain the following day. So I think that's probably been a part of it, is that the running was always like that thing for me that allowed me to go disappear for an hour.
Sure.
And just run out in the country out here by the canals and the dirt roads and stuff, and just kind of let loose and chill. And a lot of ideas come to me when I'm running.
Absolutely.
A lot of thoughts and things that I can follow up on. But I just haven't been able to do a whole lot of that in the last 12 months. And that's probably why I probably just got to the point where, I just had to unplug from all the noise and all the demand, So there you have it.
Yeah, I recognize that. I'm an older guy, so I get a lot of injuries, and when I have to stop running, it does affect me, and so I got to find another way to make that happen. So, going into the gym and releasing stress there has always been good too. But I hear you on the whole running thing, and it is there's something about it that allows you to have that time that you need to just kind of focus on something that isn't, your daily drive, So I like to listen to the podcast because I got a busy head, So if I'm out there, it gives me a chance to really focus. And so I sometimes do the same thing, like when I go out and do yard work, I'll pop that in, and that's learning time for me, So my hands get to do whatever they want to do with the yard work, but my mind is focused on, on learning at that point. So I like that idea. I hear you on the running thing, though.
Well, it's funny. It's going to turn into a running show now. Like
I know, but it's funny.
Running exercise show.
Yeah.
When I first started running years and years ago, I back in, I guess it was back in college when I started. Not that I never ran, but when I started trying to run like 4 or 5 miles, and as part of my exercise program and weight training regimen, I used to have to like pump myself up with music. Because I couldn't just get out there and run because I was the most boring thing to me, in the world that I could decide to do. So I would have to like listen to, like really pounding music to keep me going. And the thing is that, once you start running like 2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles, 5 miles, 6 miles, then I felt it when I passed like the 5 mile threshold, that all of a sudden it started turning into like a religious experience for me. So the music had to be turned off. Especially when I was pushing to get that 5th mile or 6th mile, under a certain amount of time when you start doing, getting to that level. And at that point, I had to like just, nix the headset and really start listening to my breathing and my heartbeat, so I can maintain and get to that level that I wanted to. And then once when I got past that, obviously it was more enjoyable to me.
Sure.
And now it's like this experience for me where I don't want any outside noise interfering with it. I just want to hear my body, feel my body, and listen to my breathing and control my breathing as I'm running. And it just goes from hating it to really learning to enjoy it. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about.
Well, then the first couple of times you come back, you hate it. But yeah, I hear you though. But I think it's more about just finding that personal time. So if you're not a runner, maybe you get outside, you just have some time away from your desk, or you're just maybe you'll go for a walk or something like that. But just
that 1 day a week that you mentioned that Tara does, I mean that's a really great idea. I mean I have that too. I have usually about 3 days, that 2 to 3 days that I'm working on artwork. The other 2 to 3 days I'm not. And it's usually doing other things, learning stuff, working on other different types of projects. And I usually have enough free time to just kind of unplug from stuff and have time to myself. But the rigidity of how you conduct your business sometimes also, those habits, because it's all about habits,
Sure.
And once you fall off doing something, which is what happened to me, I fall off of it and then let it go a little too long, and it's hard to get back into the rhythm of setting things up. So just be careful with that. I mean, you can step away too far or too long, and then make it really difficult for you to get back into that momentum and back into the swing of getting things back and organized.
Right. Yeah. Well, the Friday thing is great, and I have to be honest. There are Fridays where I'll have to work, and that sometimes is just the way that the schedule works out. But for the most part, I try to block out time on Friday that will allow me to do all the things that I know I should be doing during the week. I should be writing a blog post. I should be working on fixing up my website. I should be promoting myself. I should be doing this and that and the other thing. And so I just know, okay, Friday, I'm going to take care of all that stuff, so I don't have to worry about it during the week. And then this is part of my Friday thing too. I really enjoy getting together with you and sort of talking stuff out. But I think if you can schedule a day, and even it doesn't have to be a Friday. It could be just a half a day. Start with a couple hours in the morning if you can. Just to give yourself time to to focus on the things that tend to distract you during the week. So if you can say, okay, my best time for writing is this time in the morning, then block out that time and take it to write. If your best time for scheduling happens to be in the afternoon or in the evening or whatever, then take that time and try to guard it so that you don't give it up to something that isn't important.
Yeah, because also we're all creative, or we feel creative at different points of the day. Like some people are more creative in the morning, early in the morning. Some people are more creative in the evening. So take a look at your own habits and your own strength as far as when do you feel most creative in your day, and allow to try to work your creative time there versus administrative time.
Right.
I know I've juggled with that in the past, trying to find the best mix, and even with the coaching clients that I've got, sometimes the time management issue is trying to find that balance for them of when they can manage and administrate their business and when they can do the creative stuff and when is best for them. And a lot of it's trial and error, trying to figure out, okay, well, this wasn't working out doing this in the morning because I'm just not feeling it or whatever. I'm more relaxed and chilled and able to do this kind of creative work in the evening, So a lot of it is just, finding what works for you, but you have to, try different things and see what's happening. With one of the schedules I do in my coaching program is that I time block, like I mentioned here, I time block hourly, unless it's like the Baldo projects, and those are longer time blocks, so I don't like doing, an hour of Baldo now and then something else and then something else. Well, I'm in that headspace. I want to clear it all out, finish it, and then move on to the next thing. So for a lot of people, bouncing around, 2 hours here, 1 hour here, isn't productive because they can't make that switch, from one project or one thing to the other, depending on what they're working on. Right. So maybe you want to extend the longer, a 4 hour time block for something a project that you're working on, and then just give yourself 5-minute breaks at 45-minute intervals or something, so you don't feel like you've been sitting there all burning yourself out or something.
Yeah, I think you made an important point, which was when you're in the proper headspace, recognize that and then follow through with it. Don't force yourself into something that's not going to work for you. Otherwise, you're going to wind up spinning your wheels.
Yeah, and a lot of times we can't control what we need to work on sometimes, and we need to do what we need to do. But anyway, I think we've beaten this.
Do you feel better now, Carlos? Do you feel like you're getting ready to charge back in?
I don't care if we're done talking about it. I just want to go to sleep.
I've been keeping you up. That's great. Well, okay, so we'll get together next week and we'll talk a little bit more about putting together that scheduling and the questions and all that stuff. But I thought this was an important topic to cover this week.
Well, it was something that we were going through, so we figured we'd throw it out there and and see what happens. And if you guys are have any experience with this, or you're going through this right now yourselves, or have in the past couple of months or recently, share it with us in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And I've noticed, like, in the comments, have you ever noticed, like, it's usually like the same people that comment?
Yeah, I'd like to get some new people in there too. I love that we get the same people commenting, and that's cool.
No, I noticed that even like in a classroom setting, the kids that are more involved, that are raising their hand, that are giving answers, those are the ones that get the most results out of whatever it is that we're being talking about. So, so I'm thinking, if you're listening to this and we haven't heard from you,
raise your hand.
Let us know that you're out there and you're opening yourself up to a better way to absorb the information and use the information when you're actually involved in the process. And we love to see new people getting involved in the process. So leave your comments. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, I think that's really great. So, all right, so we'll get back together next week, Carlos. In the meantime, where can people find you?
Sleeping in bed.
What about if people want to hire you?
Do not disturb sign on the doorknob.
The do not disturb sign. You can find me under the covers.
No, people can find me right here on drawnbysuccess.com, or if they're interested in taking a look at my syndicated comic strip, it's baldocomics.com, and you can also find it on gocomics.com, which is the Universal Syndicate site where they have all the comics and everything.
Cool.
So if you want to get in touch with me, Carlos at drawnbysuccess.com. If you need anything, you want to, yell at me. I'm up for anything these days.
Good times. So you can find me at bobteachesart.com, and if you go there, you will find that the site is under construction. I'm making some big improvements. I can't wait to roll this thing back out again. So it'll, for a couple of weeks now, I've been working on this thing, and I imagine it'll probably take me another week or so to get it where it needs to be. So just be patient with me if you go there and it looks like everything's a hodgepodge.
We're going to be launching Bob's site soon.
Yeah, so it's going to happen soon. So
keep that on your radar.
Yeah, I decided that it needed a little bit of a rebuild. It needed to get a little. I wanted to make things a little simpler for people to use. So you'll notice some big changes when I come back.
Excellent. Yeah, so keep your eyes and ears open for the relaunch on that. And as soon as we get our time management thing back on track, we'll probably be able to hit that up and work it out.
As long as I don't get sidetracked by another job or something, right?
All right, so next week we'll hopefully cover the pre-qualifying questions and stuff like that when you get a call in from a client, which is something else that we just went through. Yep. And we'll cover that as well. So if you have any questions in that regard, leave them in the comments also.
Sounds great. Thanks, Carlos.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us on Google Hangout Fridays with Carlos and Bob. Is that what it's called? Google Hangouts Fridays? Or is it Friday Hangout with Carlos and Bob?
That's going to go ahead and be Friday Hangout with Carlos.
Whatever. It's on Friday. It's a Hangout. It's on Google with Carlos and Bob. That's all you need to know, really.
Yeah, go get some.
All right, guys. I'm out of here, man.
Yeah. All right. Go take a nap.
All right. Bye-bye.